Next on the order is Georgina, please.
And thank you. January 22nd, 2016 was a very sad day for La Loche and for all of Canada. I appreciate you coming to visit us in La Loche, as well as the Prime Minister and other ministers who came to visit us. To the questions, there were some specific requests made when your visit regarding the additional RCMP members to work with the schools on the reserve in town, mental health, and the support for PTSD, as well as the reinstatement of the Project Venture Youth Initiative to other initiatives. What can I tell the people when I go home this spring?
Thanks for that, and thank you for joining us at all the meetings. And I think we learned a lot in that visit, and it's really important as we go forward, and we go forward together with the province and the First Nation and the town and the Métis community, and our job as the federal government that funds the Tribal Council to provide the health supports that hopefully will be able to help again in terms of the Friendship Centre that ended up being exemplary, the best Friendship Centre in the country last year, but as well things like Project Venture that we know work, and that where we are working very hard. I think I told you my brother-in-law works in land-based healing in Alberta, and thinks that Project Venture is fantastic. So yeah, we're going to work together on all of those. As you know, in subcontracting the RCMP to Saskatchewan, they make those choices, but we are working with the Minister of Public Safety and trying to make sure that we can make sure that your community moves forward in a good way, and on each of those details, you and I can work together on ticking those off.
It's really sad to hear that answer. I'm sorry, because it's really hard when I go back into the community and listening to the stories, the painful stories. But moving along, the tribunal, according to the First Nations Child and Family Caring Society, since the Human Rights Tribunal ruled that Canada racially discriminates against First Nation children, there have been 400,000 nights slept by First Nation children in foster care, and health care denials continue. Yet Canada has not taken any action to relieve the children's suffering, despite having recommendations for immediate relief on the books from the Auditor General and Joint First Nations. INAC reports dating back 16 years. Why are these kids still waiting for action?
The system is broken and it needs to be fixed, and we need the child welfare system overhauled. And regardless of the result of the tribunal finding, we were going to have to fix this. And we applaud the work of Cindy Blackstock and so many of the advocates saying, when we've got more kids in care now than at the height of residential school, and when those kids are dying by suicide and by becoming missing and murdered, this is unacceptable. And so this is one of those things where the jurisdictions get in the way, and that we have to work with the provinces and territories, the First Nations, the municipalities, and we've got to fix this system. And I look forward to your help.
Okay. Do I still? Oh. Residential schools, the Métis, when you came to visit us, the Métis the National Council of Canada, as well as the province and the regional board, talking about the boarding schools. Have you had further discussions and further movement on that file?
Thank you for that. And as you know, the Indian residential school settlement agreement is for this many children that were affected by those policies. And so we are working very hard to deal with cases coast to coast to coast that didn't fit into that in that particular agreement, and working with the Minister of Justice, we are trying to figure out how we can get out of court or stay out of court and be able to do whatever we can to do right by those children. the abuse and the what they've lived through and the consequences to Canada are unacceptable, and that we've got to understand really what happened and how we can fix it.
Not sure if you're sharing inside the question with Romeo. You've got 2 minutes.
2 minutes?
Yeah.
Maybe Romeo, you could give a tutorial on UNDRIP. Could you just help with the answer?
Well, Mr. Chair, thank you, and I want to thank the Minister for being here today. I did want to go back to Kathy's questioning because I think it's a fundamental question for not just Indigenous peoples in this country, but for all Canadians, and we need clear answers on some of those questions. I want to start by asking a very quick question. As early as 2004, in the Haida Nation case, the Supreme Court has determined that the high end of consultation with Aboriginal peoples, that obligation, is full consent of the Aboriginal nation on serious matters. Okay, the Supreme Court has not determined what serious matters meant, but they talked about full consent already in 2004. 2014 case in Chilcotin, you mentioned it. It mentions consent 9 times in 9 paragraphs. It mentions full control of resources and territories 11 times in that ruling in 2014. Do you agree that free, prior, and informed consent is already in Canadian law?
Great question. Well, free, prior, we have accepted the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. We will implement it, and it will include free, prior, and informed consent. And so we will work, with all jurisdictions and all departments to help them better understand what free, prior, and informed consent looks like and feels like, and in terms of respecting those rights.
Thank you, Minister. And thank you very much for the question. Sorry, we're